only change of the agenda that I'm aware of is we're going to handle item 2 before item 1. And any other changes?
No.
Okay. And then call for conflicts of interest?
None.
None? Okay. And we'll go ahead. I'm going to read just my opening statement for hearings. And I know that this group is pretty mellow and respectful, so I appreciate that. All public comment and testimony will be civil and respectful. Address the Board of County Commissioners and not the audience. Address issues and not persons. Refrain from applause as it interferes with due process. Do raise your hands if you're in agreement with the speaker. When asked by a commissioner, please stop. Do so promptly or face being asked to leave the meeting. If repeated requests by a commissioner are disregarded, the meeting will be recessed or adjourned depending on the issue at hand. But I remember last time it went fairly nicely. So with that, we'll handle ZON 23-0002 Viper Dodd rezone, and we'll start with staff.
Good evening. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. I'll try to be as brief as possible. This is a request by Viper Rental Ltd. for the rezone of an agricultural parcel of land in Kootenai County. The subject property is approximately 19.5 acres inside, located north of Hayden Lake and north of Dodd Road. The subject property is fairly level and it's currently undeveloped. The current, as I said, the current zoning designation is agriculture and the comp plan designation is country. As you can see, based on the aerial overlay, the subject property, approximately 50 to 60% of the property is encumbered by a wetland as well as a creek. And I just wanted to point that out because we do have staff analysis with regard to the potential development of that site should the zone change be approved. The purpose of this zone change is to be able to subdivide the property. As you may know, agricultural zone prohibits divisions of land. Should the zone change be approved to rural, they'll have an opportunity to create 5-acre parcels. These are some of the photos of the subject property in question. It does have some vegetation along the creek and where the wetland areas are. There are some areas on site that are it's just a meadow without any trees. It does have access to Dodd Road, which is a public road maintained by Lakes Highway District. We did solicit comments from agencies with jurisdiction. All of them were either in support or had no objection to the proposed zone change. We received no comments at all on this matter, and so nobody contested it. Nobody had any issue with the request. Staff analysis is that the country designation does allow for residential subdivisions that are residential or non-residential in nature. The only concern that we did have, as I stated, is that the property does have a large portion of it that is considered to be a wetland. Therefore, should the zone change be approved and they pursue a minor subdivision, they will have to have a wetlands biologist do an assessment of the site to determine where the boundaries of the wetlands are, where the boundary of the creek and the appropriate buffers that are needed to protect those areas, and whether or not there is still feasible area to subdivide the property and have areas outside of the wetland and buffer areas to construct future residences. So it's likely that the site will be developed into 2 lots at most, given the fact that it's physically not possible to locate 4 5-acre parcels with adequate room for a residence on each lot. The hearing examiner heard this request on August 3rd of this year and subsequently recommended approval. And here are the required findings. I don't have anything else to add. It's pretty brief and to the point. So unless you have any questions, my presentation is complete at this point.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. All right, then I will open it up for testimony. And Linda, I'm sorry, Tamlin? Yes, would you like to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Do I come forward?
Yes, please. Nope, you got to come right forward and say your name for the record.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we want to go? I'm sorry. Hang on one second, Linda. Okay. Connie, did you want to add anything at this time? Or you want to just save for rebuttal? Okay. Is she online, David?
She gave me her
I'm not seeing her at the moment.
I have her presentation that she submitted earlier today.
I'd like to hear what Linda has to say, and then we'll make that determination. So,
I'd like to, perhaps I can clarify, it's possible that she didn't recognize that the agenda was going to be switched, and she figured that her project was going to be heard later on.
oh, okay.
I just realized that. I'm sorry. Would you like me to give her a call? And
Linda's the only one, and I'll poll the audience to see who else is here to speak on this matter. If nobody else is here, I'm not sure that we need to go that extra step to get her on the line.
okay.
That makes sense. Pat, unless you have some other thing that,
I think that would be fine to do it
Okay.
that way.
yes. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, not a problem. So my name is Linda Tomlin. I have property that's close to this. It's not adjacent, but the concerns that I had, I didn't make a determination one way or the other coming in the door because I didn't understand what the difference was, that it was 5 acres was the minimum. I guess the biggest concern I have is they want approval for development, but they don't have anything showing how they would divide up the property. I don't see how that is going to work. There's 19 point something acres, so there's only room for 3 lots, if you will, that would be the 5 acres. I don't know how you do the water situation, so there's wetlands in there. So you're going to have 3 houses that are going to have, they're going to be nice houses, I'm sure, expensive, with 2 or 3 bathrooms. You're going to have a lot of stuff going into the soil there. And I don't know enough about how the water would migrate from there, but my concern is there's nothing here to show how they would break up this land. I don't have a basic objection. They're not really doing much with the property. I get the point that they would like to put houses on it and sell them. I just am concerned that there is nothing to show how they would go about this. I just want to make sure it's just following the rules, which are a 5 acre minimum. That means there's only room for 3 houses. So I guess I'm opposed only from the aspect of I don't want to willy-nilly approve something without knowing the rest of the details. That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Yes. Staff, would you like to just address,
Commissioners, I can respond to part of that. It is entirely typical to have a procedure like this, where the request is to change the zoning first without any idea of what the final application will look like, because these 2 things are decided independently. You make a decision based on the staff recommendation and what you hear from the audience and all adduced evidence as to whether it meets the comp plan and code to rezone. If it does, then the assumption is that all of the other code applies for any subdivision, and it'll be handled appropriately at that time.
okay,
It is not an approval of a subdivision. As David said, that comes later. This simply would enable them to pursue a subdivision application
correct.
without any guarantee of approval.
Okay, Vlad?
I just wanted to make one additional comment. If you read the HE recommendation, and I'll read it verbatim from their report, it states, without getting into the merits and particulars of the applicant's future plans for this parcel, as such applications are not before us now, changing this parcel to rural designation will not have a substantial effect on the area in its existing development patterns.
Correct. So just to restate that, sorry, you'd have to, Pat, she has more questions, so I don't know that this is still the public testimony part. So can I allow her back up? First, let me ask, is anybody else here to testify in favor or against this project? Okay.
It's, given that there's nobody else here to speak, and I don't even think she used her initial 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Linda, come on up.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. So just to be clear, this is not an application for subdivision. It's merely to change the zone, so an application for subdivision could be made in the future, if at all. So come back to the microphone if you want to. Oh, sorry. Okay, last call. Anyone else? Okay, and without the applicant here for rebuttal, any other questions for staff?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. Would you like to end public testimony and enter into deliberations at this time?
We can do that.
Okay,
I move that we end public testimony and enter into deliberations for ZON 23-0002 Viper Dodd rezone.
second.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, folks, this is the part where it's just between the commissioners and we won't be taking any other public testimony. Issues, concerns?
No, I mean, the staff recommends it. The land largely cannot be used for agricultural purposes. It's consistent with what else is going on in the area. And so it only seems appropriate that we approve the recommendation.
Yes, and once again, it's a recommendation for the zone change to go from agricultural to rural, and then we would entertain any other applications in the future, but that would be a whole separate hearing, a whole separate process, so.
And that would include environmental studies
Yep.
for the water
Absolutely.
and all those things, the wetlands. So there's many hurdles,
Many
yeah.
in this property, so, yeah, is there a motion?
I move that we approve ZON 23-0002 Viper Dodd rezone.
Second.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, case is approved. So now we can move on to our item 1, which is ORA 22-0001, and this is the Coeur d'Alene Reservation rezone. And staff, would you like to start?
I would, if you would give me just a moment. I want to pull the plug from Vlad's computer and plug it in here.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I'm David Callahan, Community Development Director. And this item is back in front of you because at your last public hearing, you made it clear that you were not going to follow the Plan Commission's recommendation and were going to do something significantly different that requires a new public hearing under the Land Use and Development Code. So that's why we're here, in effect. I can add on that at the moment, let me pull up a couple of slides that our consultant did. You still have options in front of you. You'll recall that the tribe had asked for everything 20 acres or more between these red lines. It's currently zoned rural to go to agricultural. And the Plan Commission agreed with that, and that's their recommendation. But you could, one option could be to eliminate all of the people that are opposed on record to this and pull them out of the rezoning and then allow the rest of it to go forward. That's one option. I don't have on this slide all of them. This represents all the ones we had heard from at the time of your last hearing, but that's an easy thing to put together for you. Another option is just to go with those that have told us that they are voluntarily wanting to go forward with this. My memory is that's not very many properties. I think it's less than a dozen. But that's, again, another option for you. And then you have already instructed us, and Pat has already worked up a concept that you proposed at your last meeting of changing the zoning code so that subdivisions within the reservation would have to have a minimum lot size of 10 acres as a starting point. That has to follow a separate track, so we would have a new public hearing in front of the Plan Commission and in front of you. It'd be duly noticed in the usual way. With your consent, one thing we could do to save a little time is we could do what I call as a double notice, where the newspaper notices both the Plan Commission hearing and your hearing. We could also compress it a little bit so that there's not the usual lag time between the Plan Commission hearing and your hearing. So that would save some time. Normally, my suggestion is we give us at least 2 weeks between the Plan Commission hearing and your hearing, so that in case there's weirdness that comes up, we have a little time to address that. But that's where we are at the moment. That's really all I have for you, unless you have questions.
So do we need to make a decision about the double notice tonight?
No, you can instruct me individually whenever you feel comfortable.
Okay, and then just want to make sure I understand, the double notice isn't going to be exactly 30 and 30. It's going to be that 2-week period, or you're saying that you would do away with the 2-week period?
Oh, the double notice would allow us to have one 28-day and then have 2 weeks between the Plan Commission and your hearing, or whatever number you feel comfortable with. But again, the advantage of the double notice is you do away with the usual customary 28 days in front of each hearing.
Correct. I would be in favor of a double notice.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, okay, well, we'll plan on that then.
Okay.
And we'll schedule a workshop and get in front of the Plan Commission as soon as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. With that, have you finished for staff?
Yes, ma'am, unless you have questions.
Questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
All right. So then, because the county is the applicant, then we're just going to go ahead and hear for and against at this point?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Stevenson, applicant representative, wishes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my name is Tyrell Stevenson. I'm the Legislative Director for the Coeur d'Alene Tribe, and I apologize for filling out my form incorrectly. I was a little confused about that, as well as to who the applicant was for this, because the tribe has been the applicant up to this point. I won't take the time to rehash all the conversations that we've had, because there have been a number of them, and David outlined that in the presentation there. But I would like to say very quickly, this is something that's very important to the Coeur d'Alene Tribe, and the council has spent a lot of time deliberating. Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of changes in the community, and changes that impact the resources in this area that are very important to the tribe and everyone who lives there. And the council's been struggling with the best way to balance people's interests, including the tribe and the neighbors, their property interests, with the impact to the resources, including water, ag resources, and the uses that people have enjoyed for a long time. The tribe still believes that the best way to do that would be to rezone to agriculture. But we recognize that the decision that the commissioners have made, and we respect that decision. We look forward to working on other alternative solutions. The tribe intends to be an active partner with the county to look at solutions that will protect these resources and do them in the best way possible. So again, the tribe's hands extended to the neighbors and to the county to try and find a solution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Right. Tracy Whelan, in favor, wishes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Tracy Whalen. I live off of Frost Road. There's a couple of things I think that are very important for this commission to consider as you look at this issue. One is that recently, as soon as yesterday, I called the sheriff's office about a need that we have down there to be addressed. And I was told in no uncertain terms that it is not the sheriff's office, that they will not respond, that the tribal police are the only people who will respond. And so why am I paying county taxes? And why is the county making determinations about land use when it is tribal law enforcement who are told that they're the only people to respond? I called Commissioner Duncan's and left a voicemail, and I appreciate you had your staff call about a concern with an issue we have with Jake brakes and compression down there. I also left a message for you. I've not heard back from you. But if the sheriff is not patrolling that area, what right does the county have to make determinations on land that involves the tribe, when the tribe is the one who's down there protecting us? I think that's something you seriously have to consider as you determine this. The other thing is myself and my neighbors came to meetings that were held by the Planning Commission, and we expressed our opinion on this, and those were largely attended down there. We had our say, and the Planning Commission heard what was said and heard what the bulk of the people wanted, and then it came to you and you've determined not to follow the Planning Commission. And it is my understanding that there are some very big landowners who have hired legal counsel who are making determinations for the rest of us. And I can tell you, as somebody who lives down there, our water, there's not enough water to support additional development. There is not enough infrastructure to support additional development. When you look at Rue Road, which I drive down every single day, it is in disrepair. And I hear somebody saying what I'm saying is just BS. But I will tell you, it's my experience from living there. When you look at hunting and the wildlife that is there and the areas that people want to develop, when you look at water, when you look at the roads, we don't have the infrastructure. What the tribe is asking for, right, is reasonable. And we've all attended those meetings. And there are some people, and I am sorry for those people, who will lose significant amounts of money in not being able to develop. And that is unfair. Is my time up?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
You bet, thank you. Okay.
She's a federal.
Travis Levitt, in favor, does not wish to speak. Travis, is that still the case? Okay. Albert and Jerry Hunger, neutral, does not wish to speak. Same, okay. Robert, oh goodness, Bonicelli, opposed, does wish to speak.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Robert Bonicelli. I own a 154-acre parcel on Rolling Hills Road. I've had it for about 3 years. I am 100% against the downzoning of the property from rural to agricultural. I think it is going to be a major adverse effect to the value of my property. I have not subdivided it. I've not divided it into 20s. I've done nothing with the property, but I think it is a very negative thing for financially for me. I am totally in agreement if you will allow private property owners to opt out of this down zone. I am 100% for that. I want to let it be known right now, I want to opt out. Get me out of this down zone, okay? I want to leave the property zone the same as it is rural. And I think that's it. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Jennifer and Damon Durachi. Thank you for putting that little hint there. Opposed wishes to speak.
I spoke last time. My name is Jennifer Jager Durachi. We own 34 acres right where the dot is here, right below Black Rock, 2 parcels away. I'll just tell you our story. When my husband, I'm a 4th generation Coeur d'Alene native. I know what Coeur d'Alene is like. I love Coeur d'Alene. I don't want to subdivide. We didn't buy the parcel to subdivide. I want to opt out also. When my cousin, a realtor, showed us the property, I wasn't really looking, but I loved the property. I loved the deers, the squirrels, everything about the property. But when we were purchasing it, I was concerned because of the price. You know, it's not a cheap piece of land. So my cousins said, well, you can subdivide it, sell off 5 acres, you'll be okay. My concern is, what if I can't work to pay for this? So you would devalue our property. I'm sorry, it's very emotional to me. This is where Black Rock is. They're selling quarter of an acre parcels for $500,000 to $1 million. We know the value of our property the way it is. You would significantly devalue our property. I don't want to subdivide. We don't want to. But you would take away our rights as citizens and what we bought our property for. Opt out. We want to opt out. We don't like this. We don't want to subdivide. Please don't think we're going to ruin our land. We love our land. But don't devalue our property, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Susan Weeks wishes to speak. Opposed.
Good evening, Board. Susan Weeks, 1626 Lincoln Way, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I represent Buell Brothers. You do have my letter of August 9th, 2023 in your packet. I do not have a lot to add to that. We are requesting that you balance the interest of both the private landowners and the tribe and go with the option that you've discussed, allowing those people who want to opt in, and allowing those people who don't want to be included to be opted out. I do want to express the sentiment that some of the people you've heard from tonight who are urging you not to give this option to the private landowners who are non-members have already taken advantage of the subdivision process. Mr. Buell has no intention in the near future of subdividing his land. He will continue to hold it for timber production, but he does not want to see the decrease in the value of the land. It affects his ability to get loans and to self-insure, and he believes in the private property rights that he has, and one of those is to hold the value of his land. So we do make that request of the board tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Circle wishes to speak. Opposed.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Steve Circle. I'm here with my co-partner, Susan, who just spoke. We both, as I testified last time, we both speak on behalf of the Buell family. And as I previously testified before, and I provided with you over half of the area, proposed zone area, which is private property owners were opposed, and I gave you those notices that we had received from them. In regards to the draft ordinance, I just want to speak a little bit about that. So changing from 10 acres within the tribal boundaries really is irrelevant. And I say this as a private sector development engineer for the last 20 years, in this county and many others. Regardless of the proposed lots, whether it's 5 or 10, it really doesn't matter, because as the tribe is recognized as a regulatory authority and requested for review and comment, we get denied. So regardless if private property owners here, they're going to testify and have in the past saying that they want to opt out, they still don't have the ability to develop their land. So I would suggest that if there are private property owners that do want to opt into the 10-acre minimums, then add some language in there that gives them some kind of guarantee that the tribe will allow that to happen at 10-acre minimums. You all have the opportunity to do that when you propose that forward. It seems to me like that'd be a fair handshake. Otherwise, why would a private property owner even consider devaluing the property values and decreasing their density? For a property owner to successfully apply for a subdivision to their land, there's several conditional requirements. And I just want to cover a few of them. The applicant requires proof that the proposal can support water, sewer, access, and building sites. And in some cases, even more requirements are considered, such as the existence of delineations for wetlands, like you just previously saw. Wetlands, streams, excessive slopes, stormwater compliance requirements. And all these proofs are conditions. And in addition to that, there's water studies, there's preliminary engineering design reports that are required. I do them all the time. Now, I say this because these agencies have been, well, actually, I backed up. These requirements are reviewed by IDEQ, IDWR, PhD, Idaho Fish and Game, fire departments, and highway districts. Now, I say this because these agencies have been in place to protect the land, the environment, and the quality of life that we all cherish and love here. These agencies are at your disposal and have been to ensure each application has been prepared in a safe manner to protect the surrounding property owners from development failure.
Sorry.
That's 3 already?
That's 3 already.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Sandy Young wishes to speak. Opposed?
Thank you, Commissioners. Sandy Young, 3906 North Schreiber Way. My testimony at your last public hearing focused on the goals and objectives of the county's comp plan and its commitment to fundamental property rights. I looked up fundamental, Googled it today, forming a necessary base or core, something of central importance. That's not a surprise to anyone here. A blanket zone change to benefit one interested party while usurping the rights of many individual property owners is wrong. You know this, I know this, but the property owners we're hearing from feel it. Tonight, you have the power to protect those fundamental property rights with a vote to opt in. We've heard the term opt out, opt in. To me, they're both the same, depending on what your initial decision is. Those who want to rezone their 20-acre and above parcels certainly have the choice to do so. And those that don't, the majority in this room, will remain in ownership of property that was zoned prior to 1972 when the zoning ordinance was adopted. For more than 50 years, the ag zone has proved itself to be appropriate. Let's not fix something that isn't broken. And to echo Mr. Circle's testimony as a professional engineer, him being a professional engineer, not me, with regard to water availability, we have strong, stringent regulations already in place to protect groundwater. Whether you're going through a minor or a major subdivision application process, you must provide a groundwater quantity report. That report has to demonstrate the likelihood that the new lots will have sufficient water, but that also they won't negatively affect those surrounding properties. And that report has to be stamped by a professional geologist. This regulation already in place has a proven track record. I ask you to please uphold the comp plan goals and objectives and consider the opt-in vote to protect private property rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Seal wishes to speak. Opposed?
Hello, Commissioners. I'm reading from some notes that you probably already received from my son, Joel Seal, but I wanted to reiterate them because I share his sentiments on this as well. So I'm Sarah Seal, and I own property near Sunup Bay in Worley on Ness Road. by the highway district with a nice large pond there that gets an abundance of water. I think for Worley Fire District, even sometimes as needed. In the last meeting, the idea of a temporary restriction limiting subdivisions to a maximum of 10 acres was discussed, and in general, my family and other families may not be opposed to a compromise approach if it represents a true path forward. However, it is very critical that such a plan includes a true and concrete commitment from county or tribe, ideally both, that they will no longer block all subdivisions. Any plan that doesn't cement this commitment, it would be a false compromise. It'll fail to move us past the current roadblock, and it'll only stack further infringements upon the rights of property owners. It was also discussed that the county will allow the tribe to gather data on water availability. Kootenai County probably shouldn't rely on the Coeur d'Alene tribe for this data because they're not a neutral party. Data they produce will be favorable to their interests. Kootenai County should ensure that all data collected for the purposes of public policy be conducted by a neutral party. And as some of the previous have testified, opposed, they said, we have plenty of experts and professionals who verify that data already. Hydrogeological studies, as you know. Just not a party with clear interests that are opposed to the interests of many private property owners. Lastly, Commissioner Matar, his comments in the last public hearing, he stated that the well data that Joel previously provided didn't take into account drilling attempts to find water that had failed. That's incorrect. Well drillers are required to submit well logs, whether they find water or not.
That's correct.
So, thank you, Commissioner. And Joel may have provided to you a success rate for drilling the single-family wells, and this is data that is available to anybody on research. It's the percentage of wells that are drilled to hit at least 5 gallons a minute or more of water. This is public well data, and some wells are missing a production rate. But generally, these wells produce, anyway, 5 gallons per minute. In the Coeur d'Alene Reservation, there's 86 wells producing 5 gallons a minute or more.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Dale Seal wishes to speak. Opposed?
Hi there, Commissioner Duncan and Commissioner Matar. Thank you for letting us have the chance to speak and for your value in the private property rights of all the citizens of Kootenai County. At the last hearing where there was public policy, Commissioner Matar used the analogy "do no harm," and as a nurse for almost 40 years, I'm very familiar with this principle. In fact, I focus on this as whatever I do as far as advising my patients, consulting with doctors and other of ancillary personnel, medical personnel. The problem is it gets complicated when trying to apply this to public policy. By its nature, do no harm balances sometimes conflicting interest, and it relies on different data, diagnostic tests, and prognoses. Many families in this room, and by the way, there was some really, really good testimony at the last hearing, and I believe it was July 13th approximately, and it was heartwarming, and I believe that a lot of that testimony addressed most of the concerns of the tribe, such as big developers coming in, plundering the land, making a profit, and moving on. And I would in my testimony at the last hearing, I sympathized with the tribe's concerns about keeping the pristine, the beauty of the area, not wrecking the environment. So I was very sympathetic with that. But I do feel like the testimony, hay farmers, people that want to use the land for agriculture, did address many of these concerns. So I really felt like it was something I wanted to mention tonight. But anyway, many of these families in this room are in fact affected in many different ways by a policy such as that would use maybe a meat cleaver instead of a scalpel. And the reason why in the medical field we want to use the least amount of invasive procedures, surgery, medications such as chemotherapy is because we want to do the least amount of harm to the body. And because we want a good prognosis, we want the patient to recover, we want a good outcome. And everybody wins, the patient, the family, even the doctor. He feels like he's done the right job. I'm getting pretty close, but I'm going to keep going. Families like ours are, like I said, are affected, and we would really like to caution sweeping restrictions. I like the compromise approaches, that opt-in, that type of thing. That is, I feel like a really good, effective way to proceed going forward. But again, a lot of us bought the land doing due diligence so that we could raise our families and coexist in a respectable way with the tribe and with the county. And so that's what I guess I'd like to say, and I guess I'm done.
Thank you. Joel Seal wishes to speak, opposed?
Hello, Joel Seal. I own 20 acres with my family off of Ness Road, near Summit Bay. My mom ran out of time. Basically what she was talking about is success rates for well drilling. I reran the data, and I was very conservative about doing that, and essentially found out that in the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Reservation, especially in the northern portion of the reservation, the success rates were 86 and 89% chance of drilling a well at least 5 gallons per minute, which is actually higher than southwest Kootenai County by a significant margin, which is down to like 70%, and then even higher than the rest of Kootenai County as well, which is at like 82%. So wells are very successful in this area, and we haven't seen data to support lack of water. Not saying that there couldn't be areas, but generally speaking, there are great wells and great water availability. I asked our well driller, Horsley Drilling, and he said, there might be some areas that experience water shortages, but your land is definitely not one of them, which is more in the country designation. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to point out on page 1 of the comp plan, Objective 2 zoning, we've talked a lot about the second policy, which is to not conduct restrictions in land usage called downsizing against people's will. But policy 1 is actually, I think, really important too, which says to adopt zoning which reflects current land use and expected future land use based primarily on the concerns articulated by those who own property within the unincorporated area of Kootenai County. And I think that primarily based on the concerns of those who own property in unincorporated. That means that people who live in the city shouldn't be dictating their will on people who own land. And similarly, I would say, I would just please ask that you've heard from a lot of private property owners, and I would just ask that as elected representatives, please make sure to hear us out and just listen to our perspective when making decisions, because that should be the primary perspective that's listened to. I think the county absolutely can and should cooperate with the tribe in every way they can. However, the tribe is a sovereign nation. They have their own government, their own representatives, and I would say that landowners should be the primary concern, and then the tribe should be very much a real and valid concern with cooperation, but it should not be primary in terms of the interests that you're trying to balance. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Herb Milhorn wishes to speak, opposed?
My name is Herb Milhorn. I spoke at the last hearing, so I'll be brief this time. I'd just like to kind of highlight some of the things that are really concerning to me. I'm a farmer in that area. I'm not a newcomer. I've been there all my life. I didn't move here from somewhere else. I own 800 acres in the proposed affected area. I didn't inherit the ground. I bought it, every inch of it. It's taken me a lifetime to do that. I bought that ground classified as rural. I don't want it reclassified as agriculture. I don't want it downzoned and devalued. I want it handed down to my children the way I bought it and the way it should stay. I would definitely support a change to agriculture if there is either an opt-in or an opt-out opportunity for us. I don't want it to be carte blanche. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm giving this one to you. I can't read that.
Boguslawski?
Okay. Well, when we get to the end and somebody hasn't been called, then we'll call them. Ryan DeMar may wish to speak. Opposed?
Hi, I'm Ryan DeMar, and I'm representing myself and my wife Jennifer DeMar. We have a property at the corner of Sunup Bay Road and Ness Road, and we are looking to opt out. I noticed my little square hasn't been changed to red, but I'd like to note that we are opposed and would not like to be in the rezone. I know that there's a lot of questions about water, and you've heard of the term rules for thee, but not for me. Not sure if you guys are aware of it, but the tribe, just in June of 2023, has applied for essentially engineering for multi-family fourplexes, sixplexes, and single-family houses. So what I don't understand is how I can have my property rights taken away from me because I want to put my house and my kid's house on one lot that's currently 20 acres. I want to make it two 10-acre lots. I don't understand why I can't do that and somebody else can. So for that reason, I'm opposed. Thank you.
Michael Hill, opposed, may wish to speak.
No.
Okay. Gina LeVay, doesn't say opposed or not, may wish to speak. Gina? Okay. David Lambert, opposed, may wish to speak.
Thank you. I'm behind on the news, I guess. I didn't hear that the county commission rejected the first ordinance. Is that correct? It's been rejected. My opposition mainly was because it was a blanket down zoning. We farm land and some of it's very marginal farmland. I thought that if they were going to down zone parcels, maybe they should have looked at the land on a case-by-case basis and just, instead of throwing a blanket out there, and we would be willing to opt out also. We actually have land that's right next to K Bay. So on one side of the fence line, they got houses right next to each other, and then you're telling us on our side of the fence, it's gonna be changed possibly from rural to agricultural. Some of this land that we're farming right now is cut over timber ground. It's got an acidic problem, and agronomists share with us that it could cost us close to $1,500 an acre to put lime on this land so it can be productive again. And at my age, I don't know if that investment would be worth it. So I like the idea of opting in or opting out, and I don't like the idea of blanket down zoning. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael Hill, opposed, does not wish to speak. And if I call your name and you change your mind, please let me know. Neil Hill, opposed, does not wish to speak. Francis LeVay, opposed, does not wish to speak. And Debbie Lampert, opposed, does not wish to speak. Okay, did I miss anyone? Is there anybody here who still, come on up. Oh. Yeah, eventually, yeah, she'll come get it. Okay, anybody else opposed who wishes to speak? Anybody else in favor who wishes to speak? Okay, on Zoom, David.
Commissioners, there are at least two people that might want to speak. There's Ben Seal and Richard Dewey, both on Zoom. If either of you would like to speak, please unmute yourself, announce yourself, and go right ahead. Mr. Seal or Mr. Dewey, did you wish to speak? Apparently not.
Mr. Dewey
Oh,
looks like
Mr.
he
Dewey
wants
looks
to
like he's speaking. Your mute is on, Mr. Dewey. If you could unmute yourself. Mr. Dewey, there you go.
I got me. Okay. No, I'm just very interested in the issue, and I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. My property is along the lake shore. I've got 100 acres pretty close to the lake, and it looks like it's already opted out. So I did not attend the July meeting, but I'm happy. I'm happy to listen to what the input is at this one, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Seal, Ben Seal, last opportunity. You're on mute right now, if you would like to speak. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, hi. I'll keep it very short. I do want to note, just anecdotally, there have been at least 2 or 3 wells drilled in the last couple of years in the northern portion of the reservation that were producing over 100 gallons per minute. So just wanted to lend a little credence to the notion that we're not really seeing this scenario where the county is and the tribal land is running out of water. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call, anyone? Okay, so then, any rebuttal from the county?
Not necessarily rebuttal, but just a note. Susan Weeks spoke earlier, and I did pull up her letter from August 9th, and she has a kind of a long block quote on page 2, and it's a quote from a case, U.S. Supreme Court case called Brendale versus Confederated Tribes of the Yakima Reservation. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it basically, it does say, it recognized that there was a protectable interest that the tribes in that case had brought. And they stated that since the tribe's protectable interest is one arising under federal law, the Supremacy Clause requires state and local governments, including Yakima County zoning authorities, to recognize and respect that interest in the course of their activities. That does not necessarily mean, if they come with the rezoning request, that we have to approve it, but we do obviously need to give it serious consideration. And that also applies to any land use application that occurs within the boundaries of the reservation. It goes on to state that the tribe in this case, as it should have, first appeared in the county zoning proceedings, but its submission should have been not that the county was without zoning authority over fee land within the reservation, which the Coeur d'Alene tribe is not making that argument, but that its tribal interests were imperiled, which is an argument the tribe made. So basically, this is the proper process for determining what the zoning in this area should be. And one of the things you would want to look at is whether the impact to the tribe would be demonstrably serious and would imperil the political integrity, economic security, or health and welfare of the tribe. The tribe and some of its members have made strong arguments in support of that proposition. Other people have testified in opposition, making strong arguments, that countervail that proposition. So it's probably going to take the wisdom of Solomon on the behalf of the county commissioners to devise a solution to this issue, because both sides have brought real, meritorious concerns to the table. So that's all I had to say about it.
Okay. David?
Madam Chair, the only other thing I can add, it occurred to me while one of the speakers brought up that they'd like a commitment from the tribe about whether they would approve minor subdivisions if we went to 10-acre lots. Because one of the untested and unknowns is if we change the zoning code and then we approve some minor subdivisions that are 10 acres and the tribe's opposed, then what?
And interestingly, the same legal standard applies.
As what Pat just read.
Right.
Right. So it would be nice if we could get a response from the tribe, but barring that, we may actually have to test it in court, ultimately.
Is that something that we could ask right now, just for a general thought, or is that something that?
You can certainly ask, I don't know if we'll get a
I
response.
mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's, the chair's prerogative as, this is a legislative matter, so there's no particular order we have to go by. So if you would like a representative to ask a question of the tribe's representatives and give them the chance to answer, you can do that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't want to put the tribe on the spot, though, because this might not have been something that they gave deep thought to. And so I will leave it up to the tribe if they would like to comment or save it for the public hearing that will come forward on the 10-acre thing.
I think that's something that we're certainly not prepared to enter into discussions on at this time. I have not briefed the tribal council or requested direction on that, but that is something that the council could consider.
Okay, thank you. All right, since Commissioner Brooks is not here in person, I would open it up. Would you like to deliberate at a date certain, or do you feel like the deliberation should happen sooner?
As much as I would really like to get this kind of behind us, I think it's only prudent that we have all three commissioners to talk about this. But it's definitely, it's a big issue, and everyone who speaks with great weight, and I listen closely. And what's important to me is that we make a good decision. So I'm happy to do a date certain here.
So we've got October 26th at 10 a.m. We also have a hearing that night, but the same thing with November 9th. We have 10 a.m., but we have a hearing that night as well. So
26th I'm out.
Oh, okay, that's right, you are. So November 9th at 10 a.m., just know that we'll have the Lake Stone reconsideration that night. So it'll be a bit of a long day.
Yes.
Okay, November 9th. So if you would like to close public testimony and move that deliberations happen on November 9th at 10 a.m.
I move that we close public testimony for ORA 22-0001 with the Coeur d'Alene Reservation rezone and enter into deliberations on November 9th, 2023.
Second.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. Okay, with that, 6:59, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, commissioners.
Didn't go.